Hey everybody, long time no see. It's been a while since I've uploaded a video. Been a long while. Sorry to leave you guys hanging like that. I feel like it's only fair to give you guys an update on what I've been up to these past few months and where things are at. Things are pretty bad out there, and things didn't go the way that I thought they would. In a lot of ways, it seems to only be getting worse. So this video is going to be a little different. It's going to be a little bit more personal, but it's sincere, and I feel like it's something that a lot of you are going to be able to relate to. We're living through a crazy time in history, and so I think that it deserves talking about it out loud, looking around and talking about what you're looking at. I mean, what was it the other day? Amazon recently announced it's laying off approximately 14,000 corporate employees as a cost-cutting measure and strategic shift to focus on AI. The company could ultimately cut up to 30,000 corporate jobs. So, yeah. Layoffs are continuing everywhere. I've lived through the other side of this, right? Where you work at a startup that's being funded by investors, and it seems like the company's just spending money left and right, hiring left and right, paying people pretty well, and then it's like when the funds run out, it just all comes crashing down. All of these investor-driven companies are drying up. And this is also something that, the term, the trickle-down economics. I always hated that term and the ideology behind that. As long as the wealthy make a lot more money, then it will trickle down to everybody else. And that's kind of what I mean when I say I lived through some of that. Is that I got to live through the investors having lots of money and the companies that they're investing in spending a lot of money on people like me, and paying me so I could pay my mortgage and feed my family. And this time that we're living through feels so different, where these companies that it's not like they don't have money. Like the companies that are big have more money than they ever have in history. But they're cutting 14,000 jobs as a cost-cutting measure and a strategic shift to focus on AI. So it's like the money is no longer trickling down if it ever did. Now, instead of that money going to people, it's going to investment in AI, which seems to be the one thing propping up the United States economy and stock market, is all of this investment in AI. I know that the AI bubble is a buzzword going around that a lot of people are making videos on right now. I don't need to do that, but I'm just saying that it's hard to find work right now. And if people can't find work right now, I wouldn't take it personally, because there are a lot of people being laid off that are also looking for work. So what happened after last time we talked? No luck applying for work. I tried for months. I did all of the advice that I could find about tailoring your resume, formatting it for the AI filters that are being used, rendering fresh footage for all of my work, and just applying to so many studios. I applied to hundreds of studios, and custom, tailoring your resume and cover letters for every one of those positions. Takes a lot of work to do that. And I think that the realization I had is that I made a pretty large mistake in my career And that was one of my biggest jobs I had. I worked at Pure Imagination Studios for 8 years. And in that time, I was horrible about networking because I got comfortable. I was like in the grind of living in Los Angeles and going to a studio, and I just went to work, I did my job, and I came home and I like hung out with my friends. I just socialized, and not in a way that networked. And so while I did well at that job, I did well with the same small team for a very long time. And so I might have met a few additional people in that journey of 8 years, but nowhere near what I needed to do. I needed to be going to events. I needed to be trying to pull in projects on the side. I needed to be going to, drink and draws and networking events and game dev bashes and all sorts of stuff. And I didn't do any of that. And so I've gotten to see what some of that's like over these past few years. And, I've worked a lot of different jobs over these past few years. And my network grew a lot more than it did in that first 8 years I did in Los Angeles. But it's not big enough. When I tap that entire network for work, there is none. But I do see people who have larger networks doing really well right now. Like they're able to find work. They've worked with enough different jobs and enough different people that they get good recommendations from people they actually know. So, all of these applications that I sent out, very small fraction of those were to anybody that I actually knew. Most of them were cold to studios I've either not applied to before, or if I have, I didn't get any interview or anything. So there's that makes it a lot harder to find work in this sort of market. So now I just took a fresh look at applying to some work, and I mean, there's some things that are like you would try to apply to a AAA studio right now. I just saw this article on LinkedIn that was talking about how it's like, I think 6,000 applicants for one job. I mean, like, you saw my video before, I was talking about over 1,000 being crazy, but 6,000 for one job, that's insane. And then what's funny is that these posts that talk about that are like, now with that many people, this is how you need to stand out. It's like, I can't even begin to entertain what you would need to do to try to get that job, and let alone do that day after day after day. So, I did wind up having to, I did find one job that I worked at, and it was a job for a YouTube animation channel. So, it seemed like a pretty straightforward contract, and it wasn't super high paying. It was $1,000 for one short, animation short. It was about 25 to 30 seconds of animation, and you needed to do everything. They gave you the script, the very loose script, but then basically you do all the animation and sourcing of the assets. They have like an animation asset library, but you need to add to it if it's something that they need. So I was thinking, well, 1,000 for a week, that's a lot less than I was making before, but if I do it in a couple days, that would actually be pretty good. That would be not bad. I could work with that. And also, like, if I'm still pulling in some money doing animation, then I could still have some bandwidth left over to still be looking for work. So I did that, and it was an absolute nightmare. Like, I thought that they would, because the quality bar for this animation was pretty low. It wasn't like mind-boggling animation or anything. It was well within my comfort zone. And then I got my first round of notes. I finished it on time, and I got my first round of notes, and it was so many notes. They didn't seem like, they just seemed like come out of nowhere. It was just like they had something else in mind, but you're giving something direction-wise that's so vague and loose that it seems like they didn't really care about the output so much as long as they could churn out content. But this was like, no, they gave you lots of notes. And I went through 7 rounds of notes over 3 weeks. So by the end of that contract, the very first one, it was like less than minimum wage I was making to do this animation. And I wound up walking away. I wound up just not finishing it. They gave me the final round of notes, and I just said, I'm not doing this. This is crazy. And they were like, but you're so close, you're almost there. And it's like, just on a matter of principle, like, there's no protection for the worker in that sort of environment. Like they get what they need from you, but you, in the meanwhile, every time that you get notes, you get that, you complete the notes, and they check them off, but then they come up with new notes based on what you did. And it's just like super nitpicky. And so they're getting exactly what they want, but you get less and less and less every time that happens. So, that was an awful experience, but it did give me an idea for an animation channel of my own. Like, if I could do this for another channel, what makes you think that I can't just do it for myself? So I like have all the skills I need to do animation, and I just need something to animate about. And it gave me an idea to start doing a YouTube channel. And so I spent about a month digging into that. And I got really into starting my YouTube channel. I called it the Lore Down instead of like the Lowdown. It's the Lore Down. And kind of a spin on how it should have ended kind of content. But all that content, they just sort of have to talk over stuff that's already been animated or created. But what if I did that and I actually created the way I think it should have ended? So, or whatever the content is. So I don't want to talk about that channel too much, but it's like I feel like I had a really strong idea to go with. But I spent a month on that, and pretty quickly I realized, like, this is going to be slow. This is going to be this is not going to pay the bills immediately. And like I said, I was already looking for work for months. I still have children to feed. I still have a mortgage to pay. And I needed something that could pay like right away. My wife picked up more work, but that meant that, I needed to watch the kids more. So the bandwidth for looking for work kind of starts to get slimmed down in that sort of situation. So it makes it actually a lot harder to work. So what I wound up doing was I pivoted. I completely pivoted away from animation. I needed something that pays like right now. I couldn't do something that took months to get going. So I started my own company. I started a landscaping company called Terrain Reclaimed. And I've been so hesitant to talk about this because this goes against the advice that you see for trying to get some of these jobs that 6,000 people are waiting in line for. You want to present yourself in a way that's like a very cohesive, focused artist. Like even within tech art, like that's already too vague. You need to be like, I am a tech artist that specializes in like animation blueprinting, and then they know exactly where to put you within their studio. Like you need to be as easy of a fit as possible for all of these jobs that you're applying to. And when you add in something like, oh, I worked at a hardware store for 4 months. It's like, well, what does that have to do with anything? And so, but this pivot that I did to landscaping has completely taken off. Like I've been able to completely support my family with this switch. But now I'm in that situation where, I'm putting all of my bandwidth into this company. And it's created this huge gap in my resume. Like I've stopped keeping as much in touch with, what's going on with like Unreal Engine and the latest and greatest tools that are coming out. And it's it's a strange feeling walking away from something that you spent so long doing. I've seen this constantly online where people are like, what do I do? Like trying to get into the workforce, especially people coming straight out of college or people that have been laid off like I have and can't get back in. And I don't want to knock anybody that's like, that made it, that figured out, that cracked the code. Maybe it does come down to your network and you networked really well and you've been able to line up work. I am so incredibly happy for you. But this is just what my path looks like. This is how I'm carving out the bandwidth to support my family, but now also get back to things like making videos like this. I had a little bit of bandwidth to like learn Python and to start the animation channel and I was making these videos, but starting a landscaping company, it takes a lot of bandwidth. It takes a lot out of you. So it's been a few months of me doing that. And I'm just now starting to get to the point where I have everything going and I start to have a little bit of time to put towards something else. But I'm able to use my skills in creating that company, like doing the marketing. I'm making videos for that company as well. Like the landscaping itself, there's a lot of like art principles that go into designing like whatever you are working on for these clients. So I still feel like I have some sort of creative output, but I do feel the itch to start doing something creative again, like purely creative, even digitally specifically. I don't think I can go back though. I don't think that I can go back to the grind of trying to look for work, especially with the way the market is right now. I'm in no position to be like giving advice of how to get a job right now because I've so clearly failed at it. But I do see a path for myself where I can use the skills that I've gained over the past decade and maybe make something work that would be better than working for another studio. So, I've been grinding for so long to like at these different studios just to be able to try to afford my home and my family in Washington. And year after year of like fighting for raises that didn't even keep up with inflation. And now I feel like I've surpassed all of that by doing this complete pivot to a different industry. So like, will I ever go back to that studio environment? I think that there's some systematic things that are going to make that market more and more difficult to get into. There were some comments on some of my other videos that said some of these similar thoughts. And thank you for that input. But basically, if I was to sum it up, I think that people are onto something when they say that, for example, getting into the game industry has always been difficult. I had a friend at Pure Imagination, actually, that's likened it to being harder than becoming a professional basketball player in the NBA. Like, it's going to be harder to become a game dev than that. It's an incredibly competitive industry, and that was a decade ago. And so back then, you needed to spend $3,000 a year on a mile license just to be able to, as like an entry point to be able to even start to make some of this stuff. But now you got Blender, it's free. Unreal Engine, that's free to use, at least to a certain point. So the amount of people that you have coming into the industry is immense. Like anybody can just pick up, a an entry-level rig and just start making stuff. And so it's great that it's democratized content in that way, but it also means that there are very large amounts of people like going for the same job. And on top of that, you have people and studios laying off workers right now for multiple reasons. This is just speculation, but I think it's pretty safe to say that with AI, less people can do more work. And companies love that. Don't pay as many people, get more stuff. Like, it seems like a no-brainer to lay off more people when you have that sort of mentality. I would go back to the studio environment if I had the opportunity to, but I can't keep spending bandwidth in this like grindhouse of trying to like format my resume to stand out against this sea of people. I just can't keep doing that. I have to pay the bills. So, I mean, if I did wind up going back, it'd probably be from somebody in that small network I have that gave me an opportunity to, and I took it. But I think I'm done on the job search side of this whole journey. Because it's not just, I don't have the bandwidth for it. There's running the company, but there's also like having kids, other family members having kids and helping out with that, family going on vacation, your house falling apart, the dryer breaking, the needing to put up a fence so that the deer don't eat all of the trees that you're trying to plant to maintain your sanity, the water heater going out, the hot tub starts leaking that came with the house. Like, it's just like all of this stuff takes a little bit more bandwidth out of you that you can't put towards like trying to find a job to pay for the whole thing. So then there's stuff like this blog that I'm making. I wish I had better news, I guess. In a way, I guess I do, because I found a way to pay the bills. And sometime soon I'll actually start making stuff again. I mean, this blog takes an amount of time to do and to keep up. And I apologize I couldn't keep that up. I had to find a way fast to feed the family. Like, things were starting to get pretty intense there for a minute. And like I was saying before, I really had a vision for what this blog was going to be. I thought I was going to document my journey to show how I got a job in the industry after going through this layoff. And I knew it was going to be hard, but I thought that with everything I was doing, with leveraging all of the tools that I had at my disposal, I'd be able to make something happen. And when that didn't happen, I didn't really know what to do with it. But I feel like I should have kept you guys along for the ride anyways, just to see, just to show what's actually happening. My whole view of this channel was for a very sincere look into what it's like for somebody in my situation that seems to be the situation a lot of people are going through right now. A lot of people are struggling right now. A lot of my friends, a lot of people I went to school with, a lot of people I worked with are struggling right now. And I'm not the only one pivoting right now. Now that I am starting to have a little bit more bandwidth to put towards something, besides this company, what am I going to spend that bandwidth on? And how am I going to frame everything moving forward? What's this channel going to look like moving forward? And I think that all of the upskilling that I was talking about doing to get a job, it's just not going to be through the lens of trying to get a job anymore. It's going to be through the lens of how I get that animation channel started, how I use stuff to keep this blog going. I just want to create for myself. And I feel like I'm just going to spend everything I can to to really make it happen. What a journey. What a crazy time we live in. Times are changing so quickly. It's very difficult to keep up. But at the end of the day, there are a lot of tools, those same tools I was talking about that are causing the market to get flooded with artists that the job market can't support. Those same tools give you the power to make whatever you want. And the key there is, how do you monetize it so that you can support yourself? I wish that you didn't need to do that, but that's the reality, is that if that's what you want to do for a career, you need to figure out a way to do that. So that's going to be the journey, I think. And I think YouTube's a good start to at least try to start seeing if something sticks. So I guess keep your ear to the ground for my next video, and kind of see what happens next. I promise I won't take as long for the next video. I promise I'll be quicker, okay? Yeah, I hope you guys take care. I hope everyone's making it and figuring out some way to make it work. And I'll touch base with you guys again soon. Take care. I'll see you next time.